We start out the game as Akechi, arriving as a transfer student in a new town. After stumbling around for a bit, trying to find the direction for the place we'll be staying at, and once we find it, we take the night to clean up our new living space. On the next day, we go register to school with the person in charge of us, which will be Dojima, and we meet the person in charge of the cafe downstairs, Sojiro, who offers us breakfast, and we're then on our way to school. We struggle finding our way around town once again, so we end up asking for direction to a guy called Waluigi, who offers to show us the way, so we agree. We end up in some sort of convention where they roleplay a bit too hard, and we end up being thrown in jail. There was, however, no way I'd rot in hell forever, so I decide to break out, going completely berserk and awakening to our first persona, Loki. After running for our life for a few hours, we finally make it to school. We also end up meeting our homeroom teacher, and we introduce ourselves to our class. As our first day of class ends, we meet up with Waluigi to try and figure out what the hell happened to us earlier. Turns out that my cell phone has some weird isekai properties, and it can transport us to another world at will, so we decide to go back there and see what it's all about. Near the entrance, we meet a girl called Ruby, who tells us she has a vendetta against the king of the castle, which we mistook for a cosplayer earlier. She shows us a way to sneak in the castle, and thinking this would be fun, we decide to join forces to take down the king. We quickly end up realizing that this fantasy world and our own converge into one another, so we set out on a quest to find some treasure, hoping we could get rich or something. However, we are almost instantly caught, Waluigi and Ruby awakening to the persona, Jiraiya and Teddy, so that we can make our way out. While eating some dinner with Waluigi the next day, we hear rumor of some weird oddities happening at school. After doing some investigation around the campus, we find out these oddities are caused by a dimensional cat. Assuming the cat in question comes from the other dimension, we make it our mission to return it to its original one. We start by tracking out the previous oddity to erase all traces of any shenanigans happening, and we make it back to the other world once more after this. We decide to try and offer them both as ransom, but they didn't really agree to our terms, declaring to bring war upon our entire dimension instead. Being brought to desperation, that's when Shio awakens to her persona, Carmen, who then ends up joining our group alongside the dimensional cat. Not wanting to play around, we go buy some guns in our dimension, and we vow to take down the king of the castle. Well, howdy everyone, it's me again, Xakio, and this time I'll be looking at a fan rebalancing for the vanilla game that piqued my interest quite a long time ago. It's called Persona 5 Unmasked, and it claims to switch up skill progression, skill effects, and tweak some AIs and stuff. Because it doesn't revamp the entire game, I also decided to do it while using only the personas that are required to level up the Strength Confident, aka the twins. I also wanted to have a bit of fun at the same time, so I decided to spice it up a little bit. Let's explain the rule for this one then, shall we? I will be playing in hard difficulty. Any use of DLC is forbidden. This includes items as well as persona, even though I cannot use the latter. I will only be using the personas and skill that are associated with the Strength Arcana rank up. However, some of them are also given to us by the game, and I will count these, such as for example, Arsene. I am allowed to use the skills that the personas can naturally learn, or the one asked by the twins for the rank up. Any other skills in the game that do not appear in one of these lists are forbidden from use. And that's about it. So without wasting much more time, let's go steal some hearts. As we get back inside the castle, we're asked to fuse Igor and Pixie together, which makes a Pickle Rick. And not losing much more time, we then start sneaking around. The first few floors of the castle aren't that hard to go through. We end up finding out where they are hiding a map, we make our way up some chandeliers, and soon enough we make it out to the first possible hurdle in our path, the Archangel residing in the chapel. He does end up beating us the first time, but after a quick retry we end up getting past him while on the brink of death. We then make our way to some rooftops, and we end up finding a tower, which according to the map has the throne room inside. Our way to progress, however, is then blocked by giant swinging axes, requiring us to get the keys from two different mini-bosses. The first of which is a Barret and two Silkies, which Dormina from Shihyo easily takes care of, and the second being a Nilliger and two Succubus. These three, however, are very easily cleared by a bad and pass combo. Having both keys, we can now unlock the path, and our last hurdle comes in the form of Amara, who's easily disposed of by pure luck with a crit combo. With the way to the throne room completely cleared, only the king now stands in our way.
Joker, are you okay? No! Wake up! No! Wake up!
Seeing I stand no chance whatsoever, I decide to level up a little bit, and I come back when we reach level 11. This time, I begin the fight with a Tarukaja and Waluigi, which is followed by Headbutt. Ruby then casts Rakunda, and her turn is ended with Shiho casting Agi. Kamoshida then uses Volleyball Assault twice, missing Waluigi and hitting Shiho once. So we decide to Tarukaja on Steve, alongside another Headbutt, Dia, and Agi. Asmodeus then does a 2-hit combo on Shiho and Ruby, and her next turn begins with a Giant Slice, Headbutt, Dia, and Agi. This is enough for phase 2 to trigger, in which he does Libido Boost, and we must now focus on the trophy, so we do just that. First casting Giant Slice, Headbutt, Rakunda, and ending with another Hagi. The boss then uses a Tongue Whip, and he casts Lustful Slurp following this to boost his attack. So we answer by doing the same on Steve, after which we Headbutt once more, we make Ruby use a Take Medical V, and we make the trophy get past half HP with one more Hagi. Kamoshida then decides to attack Waluigi and stares at Shiho, so I Giant Slice, Headbutt, and Zan before guarding with the ladder. Asmodeus then licks Shiho for half HP and damages Steve for about 3/4 HP. Not wanting to risk too much, I Tarukaja again and I take Medical V to heal everyone, and I then finish the trophy off. We then send Ruby to steal the crown, and we cast Giant Slice and Headbutt followed by Dia. We're then forced to guard on the next turn to live his kill shot, after which we Giant Slice once more, and we then heal Waluigi and Steve. The boss then uses Golden Knife, almost finishing off Shiho, and he then buffs his attack again. Back to our turn, we do some DPS and recover 100, and Kamoshida then attacks without doing all that much. So I just DPS and guard. On his next turn, he almost kills Shiho and Steve, but from that point it only takes one Giant Slice and Headbutt combo for Ruby to steal the crown, which then makes us able to beat him very easily. Having now beaten the king, we carbonize him to a crisp and go sell some goodies from the castle. With our newfound fortune, we decide to go celebrate in a buffet in town, and we also decide to name our new kingdom at the same time. We're then made aware by the Dimensional Cat of a weird place called Mementos, in which we can go to pretty much recruit or kill anyone we want using what is known as the Metaverse. We spend quite a while training in there, learning how to use our newfound abilities both in the real world alongside the Isekai world, and after we feel more confident about ourselves, we decide to step it up a bit, trying to get our first real world kill this time. After looking around for a bit of info, we find out about an artist called Madarame, who we decide to make our next target, hoping to sell a few art pieces from the museum he owns. Our progress, however, is quickly stopped dead in its track by a wall of lasers. We find out that we need to find a key hidden somewhere in his home, so we attempt to steal it on the next day, aided by one of his pupils, Kanji, who ended up joining our cause after we told him that he'll get all the rights for the museum transferred to his name after we kill Madara. This begins Kenji's awakening fight, which actually goes by without many issues. Now having an easy access to most of the museum, we make quick work of the Shiki-Uji guarding the entrance to the Golden Room, on the other side of which lays 3 Makamis, which we also quickly disposed of, and then fuse a Jack Frost, soon making our way to Lord Madarame himself.
Joker!
Sorry.
Get up!
Well, alright. Let's also fuse a Chisa. And now let's really get to it. We start out the fight by casting Rampage on Joker, and one of the eyes decide to follow it up with a Flame Dance on Vice, which ended up burning, the other one then buffing them out. Rampage is then used again, but with Waluigi this time, and a Take Medical V is used with Vice just to be safe. The nose then attacks Waluigi for one more, which is followed by another Maelstrom on Joker, and then a bite from the mouth. We then decide to cast Vicious Strike with Kenji, and we're then back to turn 1, rampaging with Joker once more. This time it knocks out the left eye and the nose, and the other eye then uses Silent Snowscape on Vice before being finished off by Waluigi's lunge. We then heal up everyone, and with only the mouth left, which doesn't do much to Joker, it takes a few more turns to finish it off, Madarame now revealing himself from within the paint. We bash at him for a few turns before he brings the painting back up to 3/4 HP. Basically the same things as phase 1 happens, except this time he makes Kenji weak to all affinities, but besides that, it's basically the same thing, until only the mouth is left, and then Madarame comes out again. This goes on again for another full 3 rounds, before Madarame is finally killed off by Azan from Vice. With the museum owner dead, we now take over the museum in question and hire a maid to take care of the cleanup. We take the opportunity to take a bath with the boys to wash away any evidence, and we then decide to take it low for the next few days. At some point during these few days, we watch a DVD with our cat and ended up winning a contest to go observe a TV show directly on stage. Barely a few more days in, however, we're blackmailed by someone called Naoto, who claims to have some dirt on us. After chatting with our group for a bit, they strike a deal with us to let us go if we kill off a mafia boss called Kaneshiro for them. So we get on our way gathering some intel, finding out he owns a massive bank. As soon as we get inside, however, we almost instantly get found out. Naoto awakening to their own persona to save us, instigating their awakening fight. We get bad luck on rampages on the first go-through, but the second attempt goes much better, and we bust our way outside. After a quick replanning, we decide to kill two birds with one stone, doing a heist of the bank while also killing Kaneshiro. So we get set on doing just that. Because they upped the security from our first visit, we need to grab a keycard, which is protected by 4 Orobas. With Rise resisting fire and Kiryu having access to multiple personas, it's not that much of an issue, and the keycard, alongside the map, is quickly ours. We then quickly kill off a treasure demon and find a giant metal door. Quickly realizing the needed keycards are held by a security guard, we bait our first one, who's dealt with by using a forgot strat with Naoto, and then we ambush the second, which can't kill Joker because of Jack Frost. We then open the door, where Kaneshiro was waiting for us with some goons. Just like the ones before them, however, they don't last too long, and we enter the vault of the bank. In here, we have to brute force some passcodes, go fuse down a Florus for the twins, and soon enough, we make it down to Kaneshiro, the mafia boss we've been looking for. We start the fight out with a miss on Kiryu, before using Tarunda with Zoro, Agilao with Rise, and finally Freya with Naoto. It's then on to Kaneshiro's turn, who casts Aiga and punches Naoto. These two moves and Evil Touch is basically all he can do in this phase, so not being a threat, let's skip to phase 2 right away. In this phase, Kaneshiro enters Piggytron and switches up his moveset. We start out the phase by casting Rakukaja on Kiryu, followed by Take Medical Z to heal up everyone, after which we Agilao and Freya for some DPS. The boss then uses Metabolic Wave, and we use Tarunda once more, then do some DPS with Rise, before using Diarama on Naoto. Piggytron then does some DPS, and we Giant Slice before casting Rakunda, Agilao, and Diarama. This is more or less how the fight goes for one more turn, before Piggytron enters the Super VIP form. So we guard with everybody for his March of the Piggy. To be safe, we then cast Rakukaja on Kiryu before casting Tarunda and using Attack Medical Z with Rise, ending on a Freya with Naoto. The previous cycle then repeats for a few turns, after which he uses a Super VIP form for the second time, but this time, we decide to attack Kaneshiro himself. We cast Giant Slice, followed by Rakunda, Agilao, and Freya. Piggytron then charges up, but Kaneshiro is knocked down by a Zan, and after this, it's basically the same loop of DPSing and healing as before, healing SP if needed, and after a bit, we attempt to bait him out by using a valuable Snuff Soul, which he falls for, giving us a few turns of free damage. It wasn't enough to bring Piggytron down, however, so we guard down the next March of the Piggy, and soon after, we finally destroy down Piggytron, causing a shower of gold to fall down on us. At the same time Kaneshiro's confirmed dead, we sell all the gold within the bank for as much money as we can get, and we then take things slow for a bit once more. We go to the arcades with Naoto, enter a fishing competition with Waluigi and her maid, attend a festival, and max out the Temperance Confidant. Our break time is however quickly cut short, as we receive a tip from Dojima, telling us that someone may know about the Isekai world. Thinking we can find ourselves another recruit, we set ourselves on a quest to find out who that person is. We end up having to book a ticket to a jeep, and we find out soon enough by the townsfolk in a town nearby that the person we're looking for lives in a pyramid. We try to reach them, but she activates her trap card, and we fall through the floor, forcing us to find a way back up to the surface. The first mini-boss of the palace ends up destroying us the first time, but with Neapolitan and Miles knowing wind skills from Matador, it's not too complex to beat him. And after some puzzles, we're on to exploring the pyramid itself to find the Inkling girl back. We quickly catch back to her, but get stuck in another trap, which brings us to the next mini-boss, which goes about the same as the first one. After which we reach the top of the pyramid where a giant sphinx lives. For the first few turns, we just guard, and a few turns later, we have Inkling materialize us a ballista. We decide to send Rise to him at the giant sphinx, while we cast Tarunda with Neapolitan and Rakukaja with Venti. The boss then tries slamming Venti, followed by a swipe on the whole team. We then Rakunda and Diarama, the boss answering with a Wind Blast, and then slamming someone before being shut down with a ballista for a bit. We attack using Agilao on Rise, Freya with Venti, Assault Dive with Yu, and Zanma with Neo. After a few turns of attacking her, she gets up and the ballista refreshes. Then the Sphinx does a swipe into blast combo that confuses everyone but Rise, which she abuses a technical swipe on the next turn. But it's fine since I have enough healing to last. We then send Rise to the ballista once more, after which the same cycle as before repeats itself for a few more turns, until we attack her again. Once Wakabe gets her turn back, she's now able to inflict despair onto us with a dreadful scream, which we have to cure on Neo and on Venti. But besides that, it's mostly waiting until we can use everything we have on her again. After a bit of this going on, the Sphinx goes flying up to try and use a Sphinx dive, which ends up killing Neo. But she's quickly revived, and after a final bullet to the face, we finally kill the Sphinx. We then take a bit to strike a deal with the Inkling, saying they can have the Sphinx corpse if they don't reveal information about us to the web. Surprisingly, they accepted. Wanting to relax for a bit afterwards, we decide to take a small break at the beach, and we also book a trip to Hawaii. During the trip in question, we meet a girl named Kasumi, which we learn quickly that her father actually runs a massive high-tech company. Finding out she hates her father, we try to think of a way we can have them inherit the company. In the end, we decide on a 75% cut for them and 25% for us, in exchange of which she agrees to assist us. Realizing his daughter is rebelling, however, Okumura sends out a goon and tries to kill her, causing her to awaken to her persona, which triggers Kasumi's awakening fight. We begin the fight on Kasumi casting Makoga for one more, which we baton pass to Kotone, following it up with a Koga. We then miss on Rise, and finally Mafre on Venti. The big robot then casts the Kaja on us, while the small minions attack with a Soul Dive and Triple Down, killing Venti, making us start the next turn by reviving him, after which we switch out Rise to bring in Neapolitan, having them cast Mazanma twice for 2-1 more, which we then baton pass to Kasumi, who uses Koga to down the big robot and get an all-out attack. Venti then ends the turn with a Flash Bomb that kills both little minions off. He then tried to brain shake Neo, which does brainwash, but in the end it doesn't do all that much and the robot is brought down by Kasumi's all-out attack soon after. After this little battle, we lose no time making our way further in the facility. It doesn't take too long for us to be caught by a semi-high ranking chief there, being brought down by another all-out attack. Realizing all of them hold different IDs, it doesn't take us long to make our way all the way up the chain to a chief ID. With a newly acquired Neko Shogun and a Lachesis, we make it all the way up to the factory of the company, giving us easier access inside. In the facility itself is a few paths to create and time-based trials, after which we came up the most convoluted way ever for a company to be set up. After taking a bit of time to figure it out, we finally make it to the core of the factory, where Okumura's office is located. Being a coward, Okumura decides to hide himself behind a wall of minions we first have to take down. The first wave is easily killed by Zanma and Mazanma by Kotone and Naoto. The second one only changes Zanma for Bufala. The third one is mostly taken care of by Kotone's Bufala, and Okumura then summons red robots in place of the dead ones. So by using Rakunda and Mafrela alongside Bufala from before, we can kill them off. It's done onto a wave of red and blue robots, which are weak to Zan, Koga, and Frey skills, clearing them with a final Dormin Rush. Now 2 big green robots and a blue robot are brought down, which after Rakunda and Tarukaja, we try bringing them down, downing the little one, and then chunking the green ones. One turn later, the second green robot is killed, and then the blue one soon after. This then causes Okumura to show the ace up his sleeve. Kotone starts out the turn at his arrival by using Marakukaja and Tarunda on Naoto. We also used Chewing Soul on Venti and Diarama with Kasumi. The boss then misses his punch, so we take that time to damage it, making sure to lower its defense and heal up SP when needed. This is more or less what happens for the first 4 turns, after which he uses his special move, Big Bang Order. Everybody ended up living on low HP, and since I knew we all lived the Big Bang Order, although barely, we just kept doing the same reliable strategy until bringing him to a cinder. After this behemoth is wrecked, Okumura has nothing left backing him up. We then spend a while admiring the new company or ally just inherited, sell some assets to afford a trip to Destinyland, and while getting back from our trip to the theme park, we also encountered Joker in the cafe and invited us to a local school event. Having nothing better to do, we agreed to come spend a day there. It turns out that Joker revealed he was a fan of our little schemes and he wanted to get in on them. He even prepared another job we all could do together, being a hit on a leader of a giant casino. We decided that the best way for us to catch the interest of the leader of this place is to gain notoriety within the casino itself. We start this out by playing the dice game to earn some chips, which we then convert into a bigger lot to gamble on the giant slot in the middle of the casino. We end up winning the jackpot, which acquired us a high limit card, giving us access to the top floors of the casino. However, some other gambler wanting the card in question assaults us while we make the trade, requiring us to defend ourselves. A crit double physical, however, very quickly takes care of them, and we go up to the skill base level of the casino, or so they say. We first head inside the maze. The maze itself really doesn't take us long to solve, and at the end we're told that we had to beat a snake creature to progress. With Tarunda up, however, it can't do enough damage to finish us off, and ends up falling to its demise, giving us $1 coins. We then devise a plan to bet these chips in the battle arena, as he registers to battle. While waiting for a turn to battle, we go fuse a Hekaton Chirus, being a new persona we can use. With Mari to boost us up, we managed to clear the 2 Ganishas from the first round fairly easily. The 3 Rangdas from the following round didn't get the best matchup against Loki, and as for Thor Thor in the last round, we can use Neko Shogun to resist physical and electric alongside guarding at the right time. Thor being the champion, this meant we won an absolute buttload of chips from everyone betting on him, and we used this newfound notoriety to get an appointment with the leader of the casino. We're told we'll need to wait a few days to be able to meet them, so we leave the place for now and take this little break to eat a burger, show the school where most of us go to Inkling, fuse the last two personas we're allowed to use, being a Bugs and a Set. We also go to a festival with Kasumi, visit church with Dojima, and practice a few swings of baseball. Finally, after what has been a few weeks by now, we get our appointment with the leader of the casino, Sai, who we lose no time trying to execute, hoping to get the surprise advantage. First wanting to appear inconspicuous, we decide to start out this one by playing along with her, spinning the wheel a few times. We however kept losing over and over, so we tried figuring out how she does her tricks. It took us a bit to realize what was going on, but once we did, she couldn't bear the embarrassment of being found, and she went completely berserk. This is where we actually duke it out with her, which she begins by using Severing Slash on Rise. It's then our turn, which begin with Yu's one-shot kill, Rise then Tarunda's for safety, Joker then Tarukage's Yu, and Kasumi ends it by healing up Rise. Sai then starts her turn with a crit on Gatling Gun, then nulling her buffs. We then one-shot kill once more, which is followed by Megadon Raid and Midiarama. Leviathan then uses Megiddola, which halves her HP, and as the turn falls back to us, Mary buffs all her stats, so we decide to go a bit more aggressive than usual. She then decides to Tarukage, and this cycle keeps going on for a few turns, until she's down to about 1/3 of her health. At which point, she decides to cast Desperation, which reduces her defense but increases her attack, and she utilizes it to full degree with her Berserker Dance. Rise having survived the hit, however, it's possible to easily bring the team back up and finish her off. Despite managing to execute the casino boss, however, it turns out they had planned an assassination attempt and they ended up capturing us, kicking us off to a ship direction Impel Down. We managed to hoist ourselves away from the jails with some finesse and learn to blend into the crowd up top, going into the restaurant and learning the Prime Minister is aboard the ship. Seeing a golden opportunity upon us, we start making our way up the chain, starting with the politician who leaked the information, who using Jack Frost against guarantees to win. We then make our way to the pool decks, where we were told we would find a nobleman, who after being beat down by Waluigi, agrees to leverage his influence to make us able to meet an influential TV producer. The influential TV producer in question ended up being too aggressive on Catherine, so we bust into hell, Mafrella in a bit of time being more than enough to beat him. We then reach a weird labyrinth where we do a few fights, almost fall into a trap being ambushed as we are turned into mice as we open a door to our next objective. However, we managed to make it through alive. The TV producer promised us a meeting with an IT president, so we took the meeting up, and after having a small trade of information, we were guided to a Yakuza member who claims to be able to get us to meet the Prime Minister himself. It took a bit of a beating, but with a lot of Makoto's personas being immune to curse, it doesn't take much of us to forcefully reason him into getting us to meet the president. As soon as we make it out of the fight with the Yakuza member, however, Joker decides to reveal he plans to reap all the benefits from our actions for himself by revealing who we are to the world. So we decide to just beat him up into submission instead. The first phase, where Joker summons two shadows and berserks them, goes by like a breeze with persona resisting physical. After Catherine decides to finish off the last shadow, Joker decides to try and fight us himself. We keep Matarunda up on him as often as we can, and after a few more turns, he's brought down to desperation and ends up going completely mad. This being done, we're finally able to take the hit on the president. He was prepared for such an attempt, however, and has prepared a giant mechanical lion to battle us with. The battle starts with Makoto casting Agadine, which is followed by Yang using Matarunda, Venti using Marakukage, and Kogaon with Catherine. The Prime Minister then takes his turn and attacks Venti, then removing all our buffs with the Kage. The first phase ended up taking us quite a bit, but being able to lift the Arm of Destruction without much issue, it doesn't take that long to get to the second phase. This form of the mech being neutral to physical attacks, this one goes down even faster than the first one, bringing in the third phase. Well, that was quick. This then brings Shido to come and fight us directly himself. We start this one out with one-shot kill, Matarunda, Marakukage, and Kogaon. On the president's turn, he uses Tyrant's Fist on Catherine before bouncing back to us. One-shot kill, Marakunda, the Arahan, and we use a Soulful on Yang, who gets afflicted by fear by Shido's following Tyrant Fist. Realizing this is going to take a while, a few turns into this phase, I switch out Kasumi for Kenji. Being able to live his Megiddola fairly easily makes it fairly hard for us to die in this phase, and we make it to the last phase without that many issues. This is arguably where the fight really begins. This time, he's able to use elemental skills, which causes one more to happen. We however came in prepared as always, with Makoto's versatility, Kenji's charge into physical attack combo, Yang's healing, and Venti's multi-use, alongside a few single close call, the Prime Minister finally succumbs. With a string of bad luck, however, It turns out that another group was trying to assassinate the Prime Minister at the same time, and soon after shooting him, the ship starts completely sinking from explosives blowing up all over the place. I do not know how long has passed by before I wake up in a prison cell. We all instantly try breaking out, but we're over pretty much instantly stopped by 2 guards that heard the commotion. With the last ditch effort, I try using the guillotine for the last time, fusing the Velvet Twins together, who I've been racking up this whole time, and surprisingly enough, I get a result. Using this new persona called Lavenza, Yu is able to start busting out everyone from jail, and after grouping everyone together again, we go fight off the gatekeeper of the jail in question. The gatekeeper instigates the fight by concentrating, following it up with a riot gun crit Mudon combo. It's then our turn, which Naoto starts by casting Marakukaja, after which we use Matarunda with Elizabeth and charge with Kenji, ending with use Thick Medical Z. The boss then decides to use Amahan on Liz but misses, and then decides to remove her wind resistances. Leading out the next turn, Naoto casts Matarukaja, which is followed by Elizabeth using Marakunda, Kenji's Brave Blade and use Charge. He then uses Mazandine, followed by Megidola, and well, this goes on for a bit, the only real danger being the insta-kill moves whenever he casts them, and soon enough, we manage to vanquish him. After beating the gatekeeper, we run away from prison and decide it's finally time to split the team up, dividing all our earnings between the group. I ended up remaking a life with Joker, who apologized to me for his previous mental breakdown on Valentine's Day, and trying to find a use for all this money, I ended up spending almost all of it on a massive collection of collector plushies, hoping they'll gain value as time goes on. If you liked this video, YouTube thinks you'd like this video here, and with that done, that's all from me, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye!